Okay, so this recording is a really powerful and private discussion between my friend Tracey and I. And Tracey has known me since I began doing astrology, back when I had my house system in Placidus, which means that the houses are intercepted. And I was reading astrology then, but it was kind of muddy for me. So Tracey's made the transition with me to do this in whole signs and look at the charts in a different way. And because I know Tracey on other levels, and I've studied with her and I've sang with her and we've done our vision quest together, it's a really personal experience to have this like full disclosure of her chart. So I want to greet and honor with gratitude her willingness to make this public.
Thank you for being willing to make it public.
Yeah. So and our intention, we talked a little bit beforehand, is that for people who are really going through levels of anxiety or crisis or feeling like they can't breathe or that they might die, because those are most of my clients right now reaching out to me, we want to reassure you that that is valid and that that is the experience that Pluto gives. And that this transit coming of Saturn and Pluto, Saturn will start to move forward on September 18th. Pluto will again start to move forward on October 2nd. And in Tracey's chart, because she's a great shaman and because she's a great teacher of like the metaphysical realms, I'm going to ask her to really like get into the shamanic part of this so that she can kind of do this for the whole collective, so that she can do it with awareness, because these planets are going to go right over her ascendant. So that's what's so amazing about this chart.
Amazing.
So,
lucky me. I signed up for this, right?
Okay, so I told Tracey the way that we would start is with a painting, so that you all can kind of feel Pluto. So this is my daughter's painting, and my daughter Rose has Pluto conjunct her sun. And I just want you to look at the skull, the pelvis where the womb is, and the sternum and the rib cage where the heart sits.
That's powerful.
And Rose doesn't necessarily believe in astrology. Like any good 15, 16-year-old, she denies everything that her mother does.
Of course.
But that plutonic stuff is deeply alchemical. It's like the ultimate shaman space is to be able to die and dissolve everything that you ever knew. So in Tracey's chart, what we've done before in other sessions is, first of all, just look at her geometry. So I've used this as a teaching chart in my videos, actually, just to study the amazing geometry. And what she has at the top of this grand trine is Mars in Libra, and then making an opposition to that is Pallas Athena, like a warrior woman, like an Amazonian warrior woman. But what she also has that's being aspected right now, I don't mean to talk about you in third person.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sometimes
I talk about myself in the third person to myself.
That's a good platonic perspective. What she's going through and her body is going through. So in this chart, Pluto and Uranus are conjunct. So people who were born in the 60s often have this Pluto-Uranus conjunction. And it's in Virgo. So what's happening right now is Venus is at 23, Uranus and Tracey's chart is at 24, Mercury's at 21, sitting smack between her Pluto and Uranus. The sun is at 16, Mars is at 14, and Juno's at 13. So this is like in the sky right now, transiting. The Pluto natally of the natal planet of the seed of revolution is being transited by these perfecting planets in Virgo, giving Tracey kind of like a push, almost like a deep anxiety around what she was born for, the revolution that she was here for, that the seed that she came in with in her natal chart is being really pressed upon by a full stellium of planets that in Virgo are like, you got to be perfect. You've got to do this. You've got to organize yourself. You've got to be like in charge of the details and get a rational perspective. Meanwhile, what's also happening is that Pluto is right now at 2046. Natal Pluto at 2038, retrograde transiting Pluto at 2046. That's a Pluto trine Pluto. So not only is the energy of why did I incarnate, all of these personal planets going over her natal Pluto, but Pluto in Capricorn is currently trining all of these planets in Virgo and Tracey's natal Pluto. So a trine is like a major amplification. And when it's personal in the chart, because Tracey's ascendant is at 24 Capricorn, she feels incredibly personally responsible for the transitions that this planet is about to go through. And I know she does. So before I go any further into like what Pluto trine Pluto actually means, Tracey, do you want to tell people what you're feeling and experiencing?
Right. Well, I've had the gift to know that Pluto's been active in my chart, kind of flirting with my ascendant for a while now, and feeling kind of like I've tried to be working with those energies, to be open to understanding in my minimal way that this is about what I came in to do and that this is a gift to be really transformed. But what I'm really feeling, I'd say particularly in the last couple months, but even I could probably track it to 6 months or more back, but in the last couple months in particular, feeling really pressed, feeling a lot of anxiety, feeling really out of my body, even though I'm not trying to be, feeling ungrounded, and feeling kind of out there. And I've actually been feeling that kind of expanded feeling for the last 2 or 3 years, but recently having to really work hard on a daily basis to use all my strategies to stay grounded. Like, okay, now breathe. Okay, now meditate. Okay, let's do tapping. Let's go be in nature. Like, I'm not usually somebody who has trouble being grounded, but I'm feeling very like spun out, and I'm also menopausal. So there's like the feeling of that, like I could cry all the time. I feel like a lot of terror recently over things that I'm not usually afraid of, or I don't even know if I can point to what it is. And feeling like, so I've been, living my life, most of my life, trying to follow my soul work, know that that's in somewhat of a transition. I've been doing shamanic teaching and healing since I was 25, and I'm now 52. And about 2 years ago, undertook another really deep conscious underworld journey with the Animus Valley Institute in doing some really deep soul work and vision questing and that kind of thing, which gave me more understanding of sort of my mythos, my mythopoetic self, and how I'm trying to serve from that. Key Turner is the name that came out of that, out of the canyons of Utah, when I was really dismembered in the canyon in a fasting situation. And embrace all of that, but I'm still trying to unfold what that means. And I also have been teaching college for my whole adult life, in the last 15 years as part-time at 2 colleges, but asking the universe to support me more doing my soul work, so that I wasn't dispersing my energy so much and being able to focus. And so last February, one of the colleges I've taught at for 21 years announced its closure. And it closed suddenly and really screwed a lot of people's lives up. For me, it wasn't as bad because I have other stuff in place. But for some people, it was catastrophic. And it's now done. And so I was like, okay, good, universe, that's done. And now I can really put my energy toward creating these programs. And I run camps, and I run trainings for adults and women's retreats. And I've been putting a lot of energy into them. And my numbers have been low. And my finances are super stretched. And so part of me is a little angry at the universe too. It's like, okay, I took this leap I was forced out of the nest. I took this leap. And where's the support that I know that the abundance is there for me? I'm trying to align with that, but it just feels like it's stretching me even more. And things are kind of like eking in. Money's just eking in. It's not flowing in any way. So those are those challenges. My daughter just went to college a week and a half ago, and I feel kind of wrecked about that. Even though I was glad to see her go and proud of her and happy, I didn't realize how hard it would be to like not have her here. And my son and I, he and I are here. We're both kind of like a little lost without her. So I guess that's a basic overview. And then I just want to say that I love the land that I live on. I love my home. I've been good at manifesting the things that I've wanted in my life. For the most part, I have the best relationship of my life with the man that I feel like I'm meant to be with and have looked for my whole life. And that's really grounding. And if I didn't have the home and the partnership right now, I'm not sure I'd be able to stay at all centered. I feel really spun out. So that's kind of my overview, if that helps.
Yeah, that does help, Tracey, because that's going to lead into several transits that you're having right now.
Okay.
So what's going on is that Saturn and Pluto are extreme restrictions. Okay, so even for me, extreme restrictions. And the fact that Claude quit a very like big job this year and needed to do something different before his body gave out. Saturn is like, and that's in your first house, Tracey, and we'll also meet Pluto on your ascendant in late January. What happens is the restrictions happen, although Saturn is the Lord of Capricorn, your first house of like major land base, agriculture, mountains, very old age, having the structures and the systems of the place that you run. So you already have what Saturn wants from you because Saturn is the ruler of your ascendant. Now, what Saturn's going to do is it's going to tighten everything down because that's what Saturn also does to discipline, restrict, and prepare you for a transition that will not happen again for 30 years. So in 30 years, you'll be 82. So what Saturn is doing right now by being in your first house and is going to meet Pluto on your ascendant is it's preparing you, like paring down like the Grim Reaper. Any fat that is part of your life that no longer serves your very disciplined life of a very like wise and ancient teacher. That's Saturn.
Okay.
And it's happening for me too. You and I have enough similarities in our chart being Sagittarius suns, and I have a Capricorn moon, that Saturn is like getting us ready for the next 30 years, particularly you because it's your ascendant. If Pluto were not part of that mix, it probably would just be like a financial restructuring, okay, so that you could really do your soul work, and you already know that. When Pluto is added to the mix, the feeling is I can't even stay in my body. Yeah. Because Pluto is death. Pluto is complete dismemberment. Pluto is like your body doesn't even matter anymore. You so have to like be like the butterfly, the larva that goes into the chrysalis, becomes absolute mush, has no form at all, and then comes out the butterfly or the high priestess. And that's what Pluto does. So I know you listened to our Pluto video with the Galactic Shaman Astrologers of when Saturn and Pluto came together in my chart, and complete restructuring of my life. Felt like I was in the underworld. I was a little kid at the time, but I have had this transit also of Saturn and Pluto. When it comes over the ascendant, it probably will be a certain amount of needing to do those dismemberment meditations, the dissolution meditations, and remember yourself as often as you need to. Particularly what I say is when the moon comes through also. I would make it on a lunar schedule of when the Capricorn moon comes through and hits your ascendant with Saturn and Pluto, make it like every 29 days, you do that dissolution. And then when you remember yourself, see who you are at that point. Like maybe it's not the Tracey that you know.
Yeah.
That I wrote that dissolution meditation for the eclipse cycle this year, because one of the eclipses did in fact land right on your ascendant, smack on your ascendant. And I think that was the July 16th one, where Pluto and the moon were on your ascendant, such that there's also a portal of the eclipse happening in your chart where you just went through some kind of a doorway, like a point of no return. And that eclipse, that whole Saturn Pluto cycle can only happen every 2027 years on the node, like it did, which means the eclipse. The nodes are the eclipse points. So you're also doing something, Tracey, that is a transition of our entire society. Because this can only happen every 2027 years, it's likely institutions will shut down. Mm-hmm. So that a college shut down that you were employed by, a prestigious college, a college that had like Ivy League feel to it, and I don't know exactly, but had that feeling of like real nobility and was originally a girls' school, right? Mm-mm. Was it not?
You're thinking of Bennington College. I was teaching at Southern Vermont College, which was a beautiful place, but it had a different mission. It wasn't quite so prestigious, but had been there for a long time, and a lot of people, for the perfect kind of student, it was the perfect kind of school. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you also posting pictures of like doorways.
Yes. Yes, an old castle-y kind of building. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even got married many years ago on that campus because it's got a lot of pagan architecture and old, beautiful gardens. And anyway.
Yeah. So. No, but that's important. I mean,
it was a part of my identity, even if it was one I was trying to let go of. It was still, part of, how you see yourself in the world and how you, are productive in the world. So.
Yeah. And that's important, because those pictures and those doorways, those gateways, those arches, the kind of feeling of old stone, pagan type of stuff with gardens, those are our ancient structures Saturn likes. Saturn loves that stuff.
Yeah.
But Pluto right now is going to dissolve potentially every institution that there is. And this is why I'm doing the permaculture page, and I'm like getting people to grow their own food and start making like abundance of the land close to home. And also, Tracey, you posted something this week about a complete transition that we would need to make as humanity to be really sustainable. What are some of the key points there that we need to do?
Well, certainly, I mean, we have to live close to the land. That's, and for me, that's important. And, I have let sort of some of that, I mean, I have gardens and I've done permaculture stuff, but I have let sort of some of that kind of lay fallow. And I do feel like I need to reactivate some of that. And I do provide a space for people to come. And I've always kind of had a feeling that more people would live here on this land at some point. And for me, I guess somebody who's been a climate activist over the years, and I feel, and I can get into that despair of like, holy shit, when you start to look at what's really happening, it can't all be love and light. And it's, ooh, wooey, it's like the shit's hitting the fan now. And I can really get angsty about that and worried about my children in like, where are they going to live and how's it going to be? And what about the animals? I can go into that place and I can get overwhelmed with despair. Recently, I had one of the side things that I've done that a little bit about is that I've been writing songs and singing for my whole life, but it's always been the thing I've put to the side. It's always been the thing that's not had enough time. And I've done a lot of recording, some with you and some since. And I'm now getting so many songs coming through. And one of the deeper aspects that I think Pluto helped me to get to, perhaps in my conscious underworld journey 2 years ago, was that I was shown how the ancients are unearthing from deep in the earth. and that they're here to break down that door of the patriarchy. And doors are a theme in my soul life, my whole life. And that I'm supposed to help with that. And what does that mean? They gave me a fucking battering ram. Okay, whatever. But they also said that one of my things is that I would bridge between these two worlds, help people walk across these thresholds, and that I would sit and counsel with the ancients and come back and forth, and that I would sing their songs. And that's the part that I've kind of pushed to the side. And I know I'm on a circuitous route to answering your question. But for me, how does it look to go forward in these times in my holding that despair of the extinction that we're in, is that I made some turn with my songs where it was like, oh, even if we're going down, you have to stand and you have to sing it. You have to witness it. You have to sing the last polar bear out. You have to sing to the melting of the glaciers. You have to sing to the dying salmon. You have to sing to the migrants who have nowhere to go. That is how I can be of that deeper service. And I think that's what I'm sort of being pushed toward. And that feels authentic to me, and it feels like a relief in that kind of, but it also feels like it's been something that I'm now having to really see and recommit to, but it's given me an out from all that heavy despair that I'm seeing on the planet. And so there's more coming with the music in terms of investing in an online musician course so I can start to build the music to get it to the people who want it and need it. And so that I can keep producing it without having to necessarily tour or whatever. So.
Yeah, Tracey. So that is what I wanted you. That's what I was trying to get you to say.
Okay.
Telling everybody what it is that you do. So this is a diagram on the back of Tracey's chart. Ooh. And I didn't purposely put this on the back of Tracey's chart. It was just that I had Tracey's chart. I was using it as a teaching tool. And this is us up here saying it's all good and it's all positive and just say nice things and be a nice person. And this is Pluto.
Right.
So what we have right now is the rejected part of the psyche, the shadow stuff, the wound, what people call darkness, the fact that the oceans are acidified, the fact that last year the red tide came up and I walked the beach and it was all dead seals and dead mammals, and the fact that I was in Kauai this year and the one monk seal, which is this most ancient being, could not sleep because all the tourists were actually chasing it and going under the line, actually going out into the water with it, and it could not sleep on the beach. And there's that part of us that that is so deeply disturbing and scary, and terror is the word, which Pluto is trying to get us to take that part of the wound and the shadow and the rejected part of the psyche, admit it, sing about it, talk about it, do meditations on it, journey with it, use the non-ordinary realm that Pluto provides to bring up all the muck that everyone wants to avoid.
Yes.
And, you know, I feel like what Pluto is offering for everybody is like, where we were trying to reject the part of us that said, oh, well, we can just continue to get plastic drinking cups and plastic bottles and plastic whatever and not really concern ourselves with the fact that there are literally plastic islands floating in the ocean right now of enormous amounts of plastic.
And microplastics in the rain.
Yeah. So if you talk about that stuff, the other side that is presenting right now with Neptune and Pisces is like, oh, that's just an illusion and there is no real problem on the earth and so forth. But the people who are deeply committed to exploring the underworld, their own wound, their own shadow, and the wound of the entire collective, because Tracey's sun is in the 12th house, which I can explain a little bit. She feels into, she's like a shaman and a vision quest for the entire collective. So she lives in the mountains. She lives in a place that is very like a hollow. It's called Spirit Hollow. where she does this work and she's kind of sourcing what Gaia has to say, because the river's running by, the mountains create this bowl into her home. And she's listening to Gaia and the ancient ones deep beneath the mud is what I'm getting, you know, like the ancient ones. And singing their songs and not pushing it down into that rejected part of ourselves. What do you want to say, Tracey? I can see this is hitting.
It just brings up all the emotion of just, you know, that I known my whole life that I chose a journey like that. And I guess it didn't really make sense to me until you redid my chart and the whole signs to show that my son was in the 12th house. And that like having to serve and having to, you know, that have to put that as much as I put my own desires, I get that now. And that's beautiful. And it's also, it's a hard journey sometimes, you know, to feel like I have, like, really, I got to be the one, not that we don't all have our own work, but like, really, I got to go in the underworld again, you know? And how do I turn that so that it feels, so that I can feel, I don't know, so that I can feel less anxious about it, you know, and just more like, yes, this is my work. And I do know that, but I want to feel, sometimes I feel like I can't quite access it because I feel overwhelmed or whatever by just the daily life of being a single mom human, trying to maintain a center, children, a relationship, and still be open to the way that it wants to move. Because, you know, I think that the Capricorn is why my Capricorn ascendant is why I've been able to stay somewhere for 20 years and continue to build. But there's the part of me, the little girl part of me that's like, well, then where's the fucking support for all of this? Like, come on, bring me more abundance so that I'm not, you know, I'm kind of done with like, you know, just making it every month, or like right now I've got property taxes coming up. Am I going to make it? Every year I'm on that edge, and somehow it comes. But wouldn't it be nice to be really deeply doing what I'm here to do, and also feel that I am, that I'm not having to struggle all the time, you know, on those levels. And also the tears are just about feeling, you know, feeling that monk seal, not being able to sleep, you know, and feeling, you know, just, you know, feeling that the beings that give so much to the world, and that they don't have the opportunity to even have a say in any of it. And maybe on a higher level, it's all part of the transformation of the planet. I understand all that, but it doesn't mean there's not very real suffering, you know? And just because you're talking about the seals, just this one beautiful little tidbit. Robbie and I were on the Cape a couple weeks ago, and there's a big overpopulation of seals there that are bringing in the great white sharks. But I love the seals. And we went one morning to the seal beach where they all sit on the sandbar. And then when the sandbar starts to leave, they come and swim. And I stood up to here in the water, and they came around, like 30 of them. And I just sang these ancient songs to them. And that felt like just as important as singing songs to humans, you know. That was like, these are our brothers and sisters, you know. And I want them to feel that there are humans who really, really apologize, who really love, and that we're in this together. And they were fascinated, you know. And if I could, I would have, you know, of course they have their boundaries, but it was just a beautiful experience of just connecting across the species boundaries in that way, you know.
Yeah. The ancient ones, the Selkies, the goddess who is the seal, and the ocean, that singing to those, Tracey, I think, you know, parallels the need that Gaia has right now for someone to see her, you know, for the seals to be seen, for someone whose heart is really connected to all that is, to sing the songs. Those are the things. I know it's getting very hard to talk because Tracey and I know each other on that level. So I think this is a really important conversation, though, because the sorrow, the sadness is important, because as much as, other people are trying to stay positive and only talk about positive things and stay out of the drama or whatever it is, someone needs to cry for the suffering. And that is the work this year with everyone for Saturn and
Lamenting.
Pluto. Lamenting. So if the resources are tight, and I know that they are for many, if the changes are upon us that we knew we were here for, sing the songs and walk on the beach and stand in the water and cry the tears and do what needs to be done, because the ancestors are listening. They are, and we are the ancestors of the future. So singing the lamenting songs, the future will remember that we were here lamenting. So we're the ancestors of the future. Oh boy, well, let's try and get more rational with the astrology again before we get... Okay. So what else is going on, Tracey, is the Pluto trine Pluto, and I'm going to read basic astrological things. So Pluto natally is in your 9th house, which means it has, and we looked at the transits at one point, gone over your Mars, over your Vesta, over your midheaven, over your Neptune, over your Mercury, over your Sun, over your Venus on November 28th of 2008. Then it is now at 20 degrees and will start to move forward and go over your ascendant. So Tracey mentioned that, she has done a lot of Pluto's work, of the underworld, of feeling like, okay, I've got to do this again. I've got to be the shaman who goes into the underworld. And that is the shaman's work. When Pluto is trining Pluto, it says you gain deep insights to the psyche, which may have shocked you at other times. Finding out what is really meaningful, eliminating any old elements of your life that no longer work. Take inventory of your life, your friendships, your possessions, your attachments, your involvements. Only those that allow you to grow forward into your soul mission should be preserved.
Mm-hmm.
Do not struggle to preserve anything that does not serve you, especially if it wants to pass away.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to hold on to anything that needs to pass away, Pluto is ruthless. So Pluto will be that part of you that goes, no. You're going to have deeper insights, deeper and deeper and deeper. So let all these surface things go. And that one is coming very, very strong, exact trine right now.
I always thought of trines as being the most harmonious aspect. But I guess with Pluto, you don't really get harmonious.
Right? That's exactly what I want all my astrology students to hear right now, is that trine is the most harmonious aspect, meaning that it strengthens the quality of whatever planet it has and almost like amplifies it, puts it over the top, makes it stronger, makes it pyramidal, makes it like photonic. It becomes like, in the earth signs, you're more and more and more deeply connected to the feminine earth. Mm-hmm. So Pluto's putting you deep down into the ancestry level of the feminine earth. Mm-hmm. So it is harmonious. It's harmoniously underworld Plutonic. Yeah. Mm.
Okay.
The other one you have coming, Tracey, is that Jupiter has been transiting in your 12th house, where you have your Sun and Mercury, where you very much sing. Mercury there is like you are singing, when you sang the Joan of Arc song, or the Amma song about calling the girls home.
Yes.
You're very much singing the songs of the collective unconscious. You're singing these feminine songs of truth. Well, Jupiter's going to go over your Sun within the next couple of months, and that can only happen every 12 years. So you are to initiate new projects.
Oh, good.
expand your activities from a much broader perspective of who you are and what the fuel of your soul is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a good time to study anything that is consciousness raising that you know you were born for. Increase your freedom, meet people with new perspectives, and study things you have never known. So Jupiter is Sagittarius's planet. And so when it goes over your sun, which is at 23, which is the angle of the earth and the angle of the heart, you're deeply tapping into the consciousness again and expanding that consciousness by whatever it is that you study and you offer. Okay, now here's the interesting one that you have with Uranus. Okay, because you have an Aquarius moon in the second house of where does your money come from? You have a center that is very much like a utopian, futuristic, visionary type of center that a woman is organizing, you know, a shamanic center, that is Aquarian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that the moon in Aquarius gives you the resources, gives you the self-worth and the values to run such a place and make money on it. But what has happened in May of 2019 was that Uranus entered your fifth house, Taurus, and it's squaring your natal moon right now. So there's sudden changes in resources, like absolutely out of the blue sudden. But what Uranus does is seeking more freedom, seeking revolutions, seeking a complete flipping of the script of everything that you thought you were.
Yes.
And that is absolutely necessary because Uranus is like kind of like one of those revolutionary planets where unexpected things that you could not have foreseen will come into your life, flip the script, and suddenly your self-worth, your values, your resources will change. And
Yes.
Uranus will be an applying square to that moon right through April of 2020. So you've got this period right now with Pluto going to come over your ascendant, Uranus squaring your moon. The two big players that you were born with in conjunction, Pluto and Uranus were conjunct, are now acting on your chart to get the seed that you were born for to do the change that Pluto and Uranus wants you to be on the planet.
Okay.
So if there's Saturnian restrictions, they're happening for me too. They're happening for everyone I know. Let me give you an example. My brother, who you have never met, but his name is Richard. He has a Capricorn ascendant like you. He's lost his job, and the town highway department has said, we're taking your house because we're putting the highway through your house.
Oh my God.
So, and so it's like those kind of incredible, like where am I going to live? How am I going to survive? He has not built the resources that you have because your chart is quite different from his, but Pluto is ruthless. It'll take anything that no longer serves how your soul moves forward. It's called the evolution of the soul. That's Pluto.
Yep. Yep.
Now let's look at what Neptune is doing in your chart, which is really fascinating. Neptune is at 17 and your natal Chiron is at 21. Your natal Chiron's in Pisces, so that story of the sea nymph
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and being part of the water and maybe even Lemurian or Selkie, which was part fish woman, part seal woman, part mermaid. Neptune is the god of the sea. And when it goes forward and crosses your Chiron Saturn conjunction, which makes you a very like structured shaman, basically Saturn and Chiron there together, Neptune is going to also dissolve everything that you thought you were.
Great.
because Neptune is the other big player. So you have all the big players working on your chart. Pluto.
Is there anything you can do to appease them?
Yeah, I mean,
make offerings to them or dance with them.
There is some offerings, and I think that's what my teacher Demetra is very into, the making of the offerings.
Okay.
She has studied the ancient Greek texts where when one of these planets was doing something to your chart, like you sing the songs of lamenting. If Pluto's going over your ascendant, sing the sorrowful songs.
Yeah.
If you go to the ocean and you want to talk to the god of the sea, go into the water and speak to the creatures of the sea. And Neptune is like an antenna. Pick up the currents of the sea, the currents of the fish people, the currents of the dolphins, the currents of the great white shark, the currents of the seals, the currents of all those beings of the sea that people don't necessarily know about. Stand in the water and sing. Make offerings to the god of the sea. If you make offerings to the god of the sea, you'll get visions. If you don't make offerings to the god of the sea, you'll get illusions. And it's a fine line, which is a vision and which is an illusion.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I'm really I want to support you, but I'm also fascinated by the fact that the big planets are going over your personal points.
So I get that, and I get it on on the soul level. If I'm just evolving through this life and I'm doing my work to evolve, I get all that. And I want that. I never have wanted to be a tourist on the planet. I've always wanted to be deep. So I'm actually, pretty comfortable being in the underworld realms, especially for other people. It's been my challenge in the last 2 years to go into my own dark realms, my own underworld, my own wounds, my own shadows. And I've gotten to understand firsthand by being completely dismembered in a year-long process, and that continues to reverberate, how beautiful that darkness is. People are afraid of that dark, and yet it is so incredibly beautiful and so transformative. And so in some ways, I guess it's that terrible beauty they talk about, terrible beauty. It's dangerous and it's alluring, it's the beloved in the form of the dark deranged one. And it's okay with that. And yet I need to take some breaks from it as well, because I guess what I'm saying is where do you see, or when do you see, is it just a constant from now until April, or when am I going to get a little release or relief? Or do I just say, all right, just put on your gear. It's just time to be in the dark now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, I guess I just need a couple of ways forward in it. And yes, singing in the sea is great. Singing the songs of the earth. I guess one of the things you're saying that I've been afraid of and that I hear and I feel is that for almost 20 years, I've been, the course that Spirit Hollow has offered to the world is this Seeing with the Heart Shamanic Apprenticeship Training course. I feel like that's falling away. And I'm actually, for the first time this fall, starting a teacher training so that I can give the information out, because it's powerful and it's so important. And we need people who can journey and talk to the spirits and help us through the transition that we're going through. And yet it feels like it's going from me, and that something else is coming in. Part of it is the work of the Animus Institute and me sponsoring them and training with them, which is about the deep dive into the underworld. That's their whole reason of being. It's called Guiding Descent, Descent to Soul. That's their whole logo. And yet at the same time, I feel like I need a transitional period, or maybe I'm bridging again between those two aspects of soul work, because they're both very powerful and they're very similar, but they're very different. And so there's a way in which I can hold each of those. But I guess what I've been afraid to say out loud is that Yes, that is, I am transitioning. And it's okay after 20 years to transition from something. It's okay. But part of me is like, this is the known thing. And what's coming in, I always feel like I need something in place, even if it's, that is starting up as this thing is winding down. What's that?
I'm glad you're articulating that really well, Tracey. So you're entering the unknown.
Yeah.
And other seers that I work with, people who can see timelines and say that there is nothing. There's nothing.
Nothing's coming.
Nothing's coming. No one can see down the timeline.
Oh, I see. Something's coming, but nobody knows what it is.
But here's where it is, okay? The seers that I work with who, because I work with a global population who have always been able to see down timelines, can't see anything anymore. We have entered a void of Gaia's experience. And Gaia is asking both for the closing of the old and the planting the seeds of the new. It is not going to be based on anything that it used to be. So any part of, like, all of us are going through that, like, release of old identities, that I was a teacher, that I was an astrologer, that I was a shaman, that I was a gardener, that I was a mother, that I was a lover, that I was a woman. All of it is going. Every bit of the identity is going. That I had a house, that I had a car, that I had a bank account, that I had any objects is also going. So you also, what my group talked about this week is Black Moon Lilith, which, you were speaking my language when you talk about that dark and wild one who's also terrifying. You know who I am, Tracey. Tracey knows me better than most people because she's seen me in those spaces that are shamanic and wild and voidal and likes death more than it likes physicality. And so Black Moon Lilith is coming across your Chiron too. And Black Moon Lilith is the ultimate, like, axe, like Kali's blade. Like Kali's blade. And what Black Moon Lilith does is she says, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. She's the ultimate delete button. I read from Demetra's book a little bit in that Zoom call that I did with the Galactic Shaman Astrologers. And so when Black Moon Lilith meets Neptune at your Chiron, which is what's going to happen, it's like all the fantasies that we thought we were are going, and let's vision and be a cosmic antenna of what seeds we can plant for the new from the womb space, from the void. And it is most terrifying and most enticing to be in that black shimmering nothingness. I remember one of the really powerful things that you taught me was we did the meditation on the moment after your death.
Yeah.
And we journeyed to the moment after your death. And I told you about it at that time, was that I went out into the cosmos and it was black. And I heard you singing.
Oh.
And the stars were there, and your singing made the stars. And I merged with the goddess while you were singing in the stars and the black fabric of space.
That went right to the heart. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's partly the allowing the dissolving to be the song that creates the stars, that creates the universe, that creates the hologram of the planet that we are standing on, the consciousness that is Gaia that we love so much. It's the dissolving of all of that to re-sing it, to reform it again.
Yeah.
And these are the experiences that Tracey, you know, I'm going to do some advertising for her. If you want to be part of the transition, do the deep underworld work. Contact Tracey at spirithollow.org. Do her teacher training. Do her shamanic.
I'm also doing mentorships on Zoom.
Mentorships like this with Tracey. Do her women's transformational quests or whatever she's offering, or her summer camps for goddesses. Say it, Tracey.
Thank you for that plug.
Yeah, because you can.
So when I'm doing that work, that's when I feel like I'm not in the void, because I'm comfortable in the void. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like so kind of out there. Like when I'm singing, I feel present. When I'm working with somebody one-on-one, I feel like I am bringing all the millennia of experience, and I'm able to turn the key for people and invite them across a threshold. So thank you. When I'm on the land, when I'm making love with my honey, when I'm singing, when I am working with people. Other than that, I feel completely at sea. So those are anchor points, you know?
Yeah, completely at sea. That's Neptune. That's Neptune. Neptune is like, is this real, or am I making this all up?
Where the hell am I even?
Who am I? Is this all a fantasy I'm creating? That's Neptune coming to your Chiron. It's within a 3-degree orb of your Chiron-Saturn conjunction, which makes an opposition to your Pluto-Uranus. So your destiny is partly being in that like floating abyss of Neptune Lilith, coming to your natal Chiron of what makes you a great shaman. Because it's one thing, Tracey, for us to like be teachers and masterful in our abilities and teach others. And then there's another part of us of like, can we really go there first?
That's right. That's right. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
So it's more and more of the initiation, I would say, that you are going first as the bridge for the others.
Yeah.
And the going first.
When's it going to let up?
I know, Tracey. Probably. So then the astrologer gets out the ephemeris.
It's going to be a couple years, I think.
Well, Neptune is going to take a while, because Neptune is one of the very slow moving planets. Neptune is going to be straight through 2020.
Okay.
Even into 2021, Neptune is going to be sitting, rocking, you know, your boat back and forth between Chiron and your Saturn.
Okay.
It ought to be very interesting what you experience that time. And since you're a couple years older than me, I'm going to be watching, because then I'm going to have that too.
Yeah.
Lilith will move faster. So Lilith will really do whatever severing, deleting, cutting away that Kali needs for you just in the next month.
Oh, okay.
Because Lilith moves much faster than Neptune. And then this is a long way off, but then before 2025, now this is like 5 years from now, Neptune will conjunct your natal black moon Lilith, and then you will be like the master of the void, like how to go in and out of that void. I feel what's happening on the planet is that you are a bridge between the worlds, and we're entering a different world. We're definitely entering a world where we have to have a lot of personal responsibility. And the personal responsibility comes from every action that we make all day long to create a beloved earth, again, that we are fully in contact with and singing to and touching and reverent with every moment of every day. So I would say during this next 6 months, when the transits are really smack on your ascendant and so forth, be that reverent spokesperson, that singer of the songs that touches and feels. And Tracey, just don't even worry. If you can, let go of the identity with money, or how am I going to pay with the taxes, and why aren't the resources coming? Because Saturn and Pluto don't make resources for anyone. Particularly for you, they're going, you have other things to do. Stop focusing on that, at least for the next 6 months.
But what about that Jupiter on my sun? Is that going to help at all with any kind of blessings through singing, through bringing?
Extremely expansive. Jupiter is like a 12-year growth cycle. So Saturn is restricting, Jupiter is expanding at the same time.
Okay. So I should end up in the middle.
Yeah. And with Jupiter saying, like, broaden your perspective. What is the fuel of your soul?
Yes.
What did you come here for? What is the intelligence that your consciousness brings to the planet?
Yes.
Expand that right now.
Yes.
Don't let anything stop you.
Mm-hmm. So how does one let go of their taxes and their worries about money, because that's not what Saturn and Pluto want? But then there's the really very real world, like, yeah, you do have to pay those things. Yeah. And can you look at a place where I can focus my energies to allow those guys to still do the work on me, and for me to be in alignment with that and with Jupiter? But is there like a place you can point to where, like, if you put energy into doing this, it will give you some sense of not security, but ability to continue with my soul work so that I can serve the planet and still maintain what I have to do to survive? Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. If you dissolve yourself like that monarch butterfly right now over this next 6 months, and you completely allow yourself to be in the chrysalis of mush over the next 6 months, when you come out of that chrysalis, you will fly.
Yes.
And what those particulars are, because also I cannot see down the timeline, because I'm in the same condition you are, Tracey. Like, I'm doing this work. Where is the abundance? Where is the, money for my kid and all of that same kind of stuff? But the thing is, I realize Gaia needs me to listen to her more right now than anything. So I'm gonna just pay the taxes when the tax bill comes. And if you don't actually have money for those taxes, then get a renter. Like, get something like solid, like someone to rent a yurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you have things like that you could actually do to pay the taxes?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, part of it is that I just had an intern who was here for 4 months, and while I loved her, I was really happy to see her go, because there's a disruption from doing the deep work when you have to help somebody out, give them jobs to do, and she wasn't paying, she was work exchange. But what I'm saying is, I feel like I have to protect my space a little bit so that I don't get too, because I can get very stretched in too many directions.
Do you actually have enough money to pay your taxes? I'm talking about
not at this moment, no. But in the past, I also have 4 courses that are starting up in the next month. The numbers aren't high, but I and I am teaching at the community college, but that's just to pay my regular bills, Okay.
So what I want you to do is just be sure that those 4 courses that are starting up are going to pay your taxes.
Yes.
And be sure that you need to be a chrysalis that is not poked or plucked or moved while you're a chrysalis.
That's it right there.
But you got to honor that and trust that enough will be provided to pay your taxes. You have to.
Every year it has been. It has been every single year.
All right. Well, then let that be, because I'm in the same condition as you. Like, people want to come over. I'm not doing any retreats right now. I'm not taking visitors. Friends are not allowed to see me. I'm not having tea with anyone, because I need to just touch the earth.
Yeah.
So trust that process right now as the next 6 months will be a chrysalis period. I know it, I can see it. And reach out to me when you need to, because if it gets to be like you can't breathe, when this was happening for me, I would just go down to the Connecticut River and sit by the river. I would just sit by the river. There was nothing else I could do for months, was just sit by the river.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to do.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I will be here for you and listening also. Know that I'm in that same chrysalis state. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tracey, I'm going to turn off the recording. I'm just going to stop the recording now.